Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to be talking about financial independence and what that actually means in lay terms. Hi guys, my name is Jubair and I'm a final year PhD student at University College London. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already and you enjoy my content. So, what is financial independence? There's one thing to be financially independent from your parents. Of course, growing up, you need the sustenance and you need the love and care from your parents in order to go from a baby to an adult. Somewhere in between, when you're a teenager, you would want to be independent from your parents. Maybe you just want to buy a toy car that your parents are saying no to because they don't have enough money. Or maybe you have bigger aspirations and you wanted to buy a helicopter and your dad said no, you can't buy a helicopter because that's just too expensive. So anyway, at that age, you want to become financially independent and you want to buy that helicopter or a toy car. So what you do is you ask for pocket money. In a way, that's kind of financial independence because you can spend that pocket money to buy the toy car or to save up to buy that helicopter at one point. But this money is not actually yours. So what do? It's very hard to earn a living whilst a teenager. In fact, in the UK, you can't even get paid for a normal job if you're under the age of 14. So then what do? Well, fortunately, in today's world, it's becoming easier and easier for children to become millionaires and eventually billionaires. But how does one get so much money in such little time? To become a millionaire is actually not very easy. Even though a lot of people say it's easy, a lot of people earn £1 million over their entire career, which spans around 40 to 50 years. Now, if you think about it, £1 million in 50 years, that's ages. 50 years is way too much, especially when you're a teenager. That's just too much time. You can't amass that fortune. So then, how do we achieve money? And then how do we achieve financial independence? So let's first, again, define financial independence. Financial independence is not relying on one source of income for your needs and your wants. What that means, if you're working a job and you earn £30,000, fair enough, you might have enough to do what you need at that time. However, if something came up, such as you had an accident and you can no longer work in that job, you didn't have insurance, let's say, then you are so dependent on that job to get your mortgage paid, your bills paid, that now you have to work that job and you just don't have enough money. So therefore you are tied to your job and you're dependent on working for your hours. So nobody wants to be tied to one source of income where they are so dependent on working that if they decide to stop working, they can no longer live the life that they require or need one. So therefore, financial independence is not being tied down to that one job where if you lose the job, that's it. You can't live the life that you want to. And especially when you introduce kids into that mix where you have to provide for someone, either kids or someone elderly, you can't do so with that one job. Therefore, there is a mental aspect to it, which is, if I lose this job, how will I cope? And that brings anxiety. There's also a monetary aspect to it, is if I lose that job, I won't physically be able to provide. So therefore, how do you get from being financially dependent, whether it be your parents or a job, which is a source of income, to being financially independent? Well, the answer to that is by creating assets. And let's define what an asset is in lay terms. An asset is something that you can acquire that builds revenue or provides money. It is the opposite of what you call a liability. A liability is something that takes money away from you. An example of an asset can be a home. Say you've bought a home and you've paid off the mortgage and it brings a rental income. Now, it is an asset when there is more money that it gives to you than it takes away. So for example, even if you bought a home and you think it's an asset, it could easily be a liability because if you have lots of mortgage payments, if the boiler breaks down, if you have insurance on top of that, all these other things that add up or subtract in this case, and it could easily become a liability. But if the rental income is higher than everything else, then therefore it is an asset. It is generating money that you don't have to physically touch. For example, a job would be an income. So there's income, which is money coming into you. There's expenditure, which is money that you need to pay. So for example, rent, mortgage, food, and other expenses. So we have an income, which is money coming into you, and expenditure, which is money that you need to pay or money that is required of you to give in order to sustain the life that you want. So an asset therefore gives you money. That money then goes into the income box, okay? So this is the money you have. but the liabilities then take away and go into the expenditure box. So how do you build assets? In fact, most people don't have assets. They have an income, which is a job. The source is a job. So let's just take, for example, the average, let's just give it a good round figure, which is the average, okay, let's just say it's £30,000. So this is the income of a person per year. This is subject to tax and expenditures that a person needs, such as rent, food, clothing, and other necessities. So a normal person, which is 90% of the population, they have one source of income, no assets, and therefore they are financially dependent. So the only way to actually become financially independent is to attain more and more assets. Now you can buy assets such as buying a house in order to get money from rental income. However, it requires a big capital, and capital is how much money you have to put into something essentially. It's not the actual definition, but it requires money to make money. But it does not actually require money to make assets in the beginning. A great example is in the new age of things, which we are now in the information age, is that we can create things for free that we can sell. So a great example of an asset that you can make is a book. Once you create a book once, there's a lot of work, granted there is a lot of work putting into making a book once, but once you make a book once, you can live off the sales for a while. Well, I shouldn't use the word live off, but it will generate an income and it will be an asset, right? A book can also become a liability. Let's just talk about the opposite side of the coin. If you've invested too much money into a book, and or you have a brick and mortar store where you're storing the book, you bought like 50,000 copies of your book, and now it's a liability because the amount you're paying to store your books is costing more than the amount in sales. So this is a liability. However, like I said, there is a way of building assets or acquiring, generating assets without any money, in fact. It just requires time. And remember in my previous videos, time is the greatest currency and it's our greatest asset. Some people have more time than others. Some people are more healthier than others, and that's more of an asset. So remember, time is money. So in this day and age, you can create things such as books, you can create TikTok videos which provide value, and that's what it is. In order to create an asset, you need to provide value. The greatest asset is not physical things, it's the way of thinking. I'm pretty sure that's a quote somewhere. But if you can translate something from an idea into something tangible, it doesn't have to be physical anymore because it can be virtual, such as YouTube videos where you give advice and it gives value to people. Therefore, you can create that into an asset. So for example, if I had 10,000 subscribers, I could generate a decent income or a constant income from YouTube via AdSense. Now this would be an asset because the money I'm putting into it is much less than the money that is giving back. Therefore, it is an asset and not a liability. And this generates an income on top of my income, which would be from my £30,000 job, for example. So YouTube videos is a great example. Cooking books, books of all sorts, TikTok videos, business ideas that you can translate to businesses, photography, anything artsy or creative. Remember, that's the only way that we can actually create assets in this world without any money. It's the ideas that we have that translates into something valuable that people will purchase, and that becomes an asset. It is actually too difficult to become financially independent from your job without having assets. For example, if you're earning £200,000 a year from your financial job, you are still financially dependent on the job. However, a lot of people get out of this raft from earning £200,000 because they can buy assets. So when you have that much capital, you can actually buy assets. So you can buy investments that have high returns. You can buy houses that give you good rental income. But most people don't have this huge capital to begin with. So what I'm trying to say is, in this video at least, is to give you a few financial definitions and say that the only easy way to become financially independent is to build assets from nothing. So if you're really young, if you're around 14, and you can learn to code and develop apps that can be sold later for a lot of money, that's one thing you can do. You can read a lot of books and you can digest that information into small snippets that people can read, or people of your age or people from your interests. That's something that you can do right now, and you can gain the information that will help you build assets. Even if you're just 14 now, it takes years and years to get to that comfort or that confidence to be able to build assets. But essentially everyone can do this, everyone can make assets, and that's what I want everyone who's watching this video to do. So that's been the end of the video. I think it's very important to think about financial independence, and a lot of people don't really understand what this term means and all these financial terms. But I hope this video has made it slightly clearer about these terms and the fact that everyone should be thinking about being financially dependent. It's not necessarily just about attaining a high paying job, because you're still dependent on that job. If that job just vanished, then you have nothing to fall back on. Please subscribe to this channel if sounds like I'm begging, but if you want to subscribe to this channel, please feel free to. Please like this video if you liked it. Comment down below of what kind of videos you want to see, and if you want me to talk more about financial independence, because I think it's a very interesting topic that I've recently got into at a big old age of 27. But thank you for watching, and as always, thank you for watching.